Hi everyone! So there are 3 dates that get me very excited during the year: Halloween, Christmas, and UWA's Save the Children book sale. I tend to go a little crazy with my shopping. I tend to not buy too many books during the year, and I save it all up so I can buy like boxes of these. I've got 6 of these underneath me right here. So this is my idea of a haul. So I thought I would unbox, pop them up on my shelf where they need to be, and that way you guys can have a look at some of the books that I bought this year. First one on the top was Elizabeth Kostova's The Shadowland. Let me know as well when I'm pulling some of these out if you have them and what you thought of them, and that way I know what to prioritize for my reading list. Elizabeth Kostova wrote The Historian, and I would say that is one of my favorite books of all time. I think mostly because it's combining history, travel, and Dracula, and I don't think you can get any better, at least in my opinion. I read one of her other books, wasn't as big of a fan, but based on how much I loved The Historian, I really wanted to try The Shadowland because from what I can tell, again, it's that mix of history and travel. So it might be interesting. Okay, so that is going there. Okay, next one is Hothouse Flower. Okay, Lucinda Riley. Her books are amazing. So actually it was here on YouTube. One of you guys recommended to me her Seven Sisters series, which she is currently writing. I've got her latest one, The Moon Sister, here on my shelf right now. If you haven't picked up her books yet and you haven't given them a try, I would definitely start, and I would start with her first book of that series, The Seven Sisters. All her other books are really good as well, but once you start on that series, you've got many books to look forward to, and it's just really addictive. So I've added one of her books to my pile when I went shopping. So out of this box as well, my sister asked me to pick up a few Fiona McIntosh books. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. So I was able to grab 4 of them. So I found this in the fantasy section. So there's Mirren's Gift, Revenge, Betrayal, and Royal Excel. So if you guys have read any of those, please let us know which ones you love to read. I'm gonna hand those ones over to my sister so she can get started on those. Also in the fantasy section, I had actually done a little search online to see what books are being turned into TV shows, and there is a lot of fantasy. If not this year, next year. So book 1 of The Wheel of Time, Robert Jordan. I have no idea what it's about. To be honest, I don't even really read fantasy. So this is me kind of just tiptoeing my way in. So we're gonna see how that goes. Couldn't find book 2, but book 3, The Dragon Reborn. So I just need to get the one in between. Hopefully I really like this series because that's gonna go up on the shelf. Let's pop, where are we putting fantasy? Fantasy goes over here. Also in the fantasy section was Patrick Rothfuss' The Name of the Wind. So I didn't really read a lot of descriptions. I kind of just skimmed through and decided, yep, that sounds good. So I added that one to my pile. And I think I'm gonna have to ramp this up because I've got like another 5 boxes still to go. I'm starting to get a little, all the boxes are going everywhere. So let's just sort of jump in. Books like these are another way that I find my inspiration. So one of my past videos, I was showing how I create my herbology labels, and I'm talking about how I don't actually start from scratch. I often take a reference, a vintage illustration, a vintage frame, whatever, and then I work within that. Start to see things like that. And pages like this. And I just like having those as reference because when you're starting to do things like design, if you kind of base everything you find on what you find online, it's pretty limited still. So there's lots of stuff that isn't online. So getting your hands on like original old books is a great way of kind of getting inspired. So one like that. And here's the other one that I found that's like this. Examples of, sorry, let me turn this down a bit. Okay, examples of modern alphabets, plain and ornamental. This is from, I think it was 1900. See, it's like beautiful pages. But, so I have to be careful because this book is falling apart. But that's where you find ornamental lettering. And that is where I get my inspiration from. Whew. Okay, so this is one of the favorite things that I find at these book sales. There is a section on vintage and interesting books, and they really do have vintage and interesting books. So this one is A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens, and this one was printed in 1902. So it's over 100 years old, and there's something really special about having these books and kind of, I guess, just like looking after them. And even inside you can see that there's a really beautiful, you see everyone's inscriptions. You know, someone has given this as a gift. Yeah, it's 110 years ago that someone gave this as a gift for someone's birthday, and I love that. But also, yeah, look, it's beautiful detail on the spine, and I'll stop getting all excited and I'll move on to the rest of the books, yes? Okay. But that's not my only one. I tend to go a little crazy with all the vintage section. I just kind of like gather them all up. There is, I think, a box just for these. So we'll just ogle at all the beautiful spines. This one is The Plays by J.M. Barrie. And this one is this play of Dear Brutus, and that's 1927. Imagination and Fancy, 1891. So it's a selection from the English poets and a little description and an essay answering to the question, what is poetry? Okay. Merchant of Venice. Like, how gorgeous are these pages? Like, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. This just makes me really happy. I was really excited. It's not the complete collection. I think it's missing 2 or 3, but I bought almost the complete works of Robert Louis Stevenson. So it's got volumes 1 all the way through to 22. Anyways, I just was really excited to find the whole collection, because often you find bits and pieces, even when I'm trying to find the ebooks, there's like one collection here and another collection here, but I wanted like the whole kit and caboodle. So I just need to find my last 3 books. This is gonna be me for the next year. I'm gonna be working my way through his books. And I made sure I cleared a shelf just for this, knowing it was going to come in. I even made sure that I bought 2 extra shelves to pop into these Billy bookshelves, just in case I needed more space. And I'm just going to rearrange books and make them, just going to make it fit, yes? Okay, so the next box is basically these types of books. These are, again, more historical books. So I've got England and the Discovery of America, 1481 to 1620. Cultural History of England. That. So the reason why I always pick up historical books on culture, yeah, let's start with the culture part. When I'm doing recipes, sometimes I'm creating, for example, when it's like Willy Wonka, there's no basis to that recipe. So you get to start from your imagination and go from there. When it's historical, like take for example Sleepy Hollow last year, me creating recipes isn't creating recipes, it's me going back and doing like historical research in a sense, and I go and find as much as I can on the topic. So even things like apple pie, it's like the apples we eat nowadays are not the apples that they would have been eating necessarily. Some of them are, but for myself, I've got like the Granny Smith and the Pink Lady here in Australia, and I can tell you that's not what they were eating in Sleepy Hollow or say Jane Austen's time. So actually, speaking of apples, this was one of the books that we had got last year at the book sale, funnily enough. It's on apples. It's the history, the folklore, the horticulture, and the gastronomy. And it's these types of books that are invaluable when it comes to research. And also in these, they have all the bibliography, so you can kind of keep going back and back and back and seeing where people have gotten their information from. So at least when I'm passing on information online, hopefully it's somewhat correct. So anyways, yes, that is why I buy so many historical books. And in terms of, sorry, I'm in your face there, the English Country House, you know, when it comes to doing parties. So, you know, when I did the Beauty and the Beast one, and I was all talking about Baroque style in terms of furniture and styling your party, it's like, I'm not just pulling that out of thin air. You go back to your old reference books, and a lot of these will show you the styles or the furniture layouts or even the room decor and the room layout, floor layouts, all those sorts of things. So for me, I am big on making sure I have as many reference books around me as possible. More historical books. So one of them that was on the pile there was Ireland, a History, and I also found Waterloo Township through 2 centuries. This is, yes, family history research, because of course in Australia you'd find something on Ontario. But really excited because it gave a lot of layout of what mills and what roads and families and communities, everything that was happening over 2 centuries basically. So in Ireland, you know, it's always nice. You see dates of when people have moved around in your family, and it's nice being able to have something to reference back and kind of go, okay, well, this was actually happening during that time. More history. The history of the novel in England and music in the Baroque era, because it seemed like a good idea to have that type of book. I actually really struggled finding. It wasn't just the Baroque style. I know that was for Beauty and the Beast, but I was looking for something recently. It was for Sleepy Hollow. I was trying to find what music was happening during that era, and it's actually kind of difficult to find that stuff. So that's why whenever I find books like this, again, reference, I pop it onto the shelf, and just in case. Isn't that always the thing? Just in case I need it at some point. All right, so I kind of have 2 boxes of children's books. Some of them are, let's just have a look at what I've got. Kids books. Does anyone else collect these DK books? I love them. We grew up with them. They're the eyewitness guides. They're just really good. You flip through and there's just that little tidbit of information that you need, and sometimes that's all you need. And it's visual. So Dinosaur, I picked that one up because I was thinking more Jurassic Park stuff. I'm hoping next year I wanted to work on that, because I've kind of been picking up bits and pieces. Pirate, because pirate. And also Costume. So again, it's quick little reference books. Sorry, I'm probably moving really quickly. Costume, because it gives you just a rundown of exactly what you need. Shoot. Swimming costumes. Hats. So again, that one comes down to more like parties, and if you're looking at what sort of dress up you're wanting to do for a certain era, just quick books like this is exactly why I have them on my shelf. Oh, you guys might like this one. Jane Austen's sewing box. I do not sew. I saw Jane Austen, I thought, this is a really good book to have on my shelf. So it's craft projects and stories from Jane Austen's novels. She puts in quotes from within all of Jane Austen's works, so it ties it back to something, which I thought was quite lovely. How about a bonnet? So yes, that one is being added to my shelf. Now, growing up, I know Mum had a collection of reference books on gnomes and fairies, I think. But there's something about the cover that made me remind me that maybe this was part of the same series. So this one's on giants. And I guess really what it is just about capturing how people have described giants in literature and folklore and whatever that is. But there's lots of, these are always quite beautiful. They've got all these illustrations. So I bought a collection from the collection called The Enchanted World. So these ones come in handy, I guess, whenever I'm doing the fairy tales and the fantasy. The first one was on magical beasts. That covers stories and the history and so on. You know, we'll know the name the basilisk because Harry Potter, but its name's derived from the Greek basilis, because it's the monarch of its kind. In its brightly colored cockhead burned enormous eyes whose baleful glance could kill. So it's always nice kind of knowing what back history is, where people have gotten inspiration from for their own literature. Within that collection as well is water spirits, fairies and elves, spells and bindings. Whew. All right, so I'm just going to get my books organized onto the shelf. With that, I am left with some boxes after I let my cats run through them because this is their favorite part of the book sale. I'm actually going to use these to make tombstones for our Dracula yard haunt, which you guys might have seen on Instagram. So anyways, with that, I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I will see you guys in the next video.